Hello, I'm Laurel. I'm a youth ambassador for Attentive Social Enterprise, and I'm here today with another youth ambassador, Shanoa. And we're here today with Montell, who's our coach and mentor. He's going to be showing us some thinking techniques in chess. So over to you, Montell.
Hi, how are you two?
Good, thanks.
Yeah,
Good. How are
good.
you?
Excellent, great. Okay, so now what I will be inviting you to do over the next few little templates, which I'm going to show you, is to get you to think like a master. Okay, best way to do that is to take you to middle game, and then to get you guys to talk me through what's in your head and how you would read the board which is in front of you. Next move will be blacks to move. Okay. So can I invite you both just to have a conversation about how you would read that board in front of you? So now, do you want to go first?
Right, okay, what do we have here? Well, the queen is,
Black or white queen?
no, the white queen. King. The white king has castled himself right in the corner, and black has not castled at all. So I don't know if that's going to be an issue on black's part. The queen could just, of the white, could just move straight up and put black's king in check, couldn't it?
Where about on the white square or the black square?
On either square, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it can move sideways, it can move diagonally. Most likely the black square, because then if they're stopped on the square just below the white square, then black's queen could come and take them. So yeah, it's really a bit wide open, really.
Laurel, what is on the board for you? How would you read that board?
Well, I think what black's done is wait for white to castle to see which side he wants to castle. Because it looks like the king hasn't made a move, and neither have the bishops, neither have the rooks. Sorry, so he can castle either side. He's cleared all of that back line, so he can castle. So I think that's the plan that black has come up with.
Excellent. And then if you were black, both of you, what would you be thinking of? What would your next move be? How would you consider your next move from the position that you have?
I've just spotted something else as well. Sorry. I've just spotted that the queen can get into the back by the king. It can get through where the king's castled.
The white or black queen?
The black queen can get into
here?
Yeah, that's true.
Or here?
Yeah, there.
Okay. What would if the black queen moved down to here, what would white do in reply?
Oh, actually, white would just take it, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So now, what have you spotted? What can you see here?
Well, in the previous question, I was going to say that black would castle, obviously, on the far side, be the most likely move that they'd make next. I don't know other than that. It's quite an odd setup, really, isn't it? Because all of the pawns are right at the edges of the game. None of the minor pieces are in the middle except for the black's knight there. So it's quite an odd setup, really, isn't it?
Great. Okay. So the reason why it's good to invite people to think about a mid-game is because you can get to understand, when people think aloud, what is going through their mind. Okay. When you're playing against a coach or a master or a grandmaster, they're always thinking about attack, attack, attack. Okay. Now, I'm just trying to some of your questions. First of all, a master wouldn't think about coming over here because they'll be taken straight away. Okay. Now, if it's black's move, you're right in terms of black can come down here, but they're not yet available to move on to at the moment. black have got a bishop here pinning that pawn. So that pawn, which is guarding that, is actually pinned. Okay. So that knight is attacking the pawn. Okay. If they were to castle, they can get the bishop, the rook to threaten the queen. Okay. The queen can obviously come down here. Now, when masters play each other, it's usually very close, and there's only usually like one move in it. Either one can win a game in one move. So you always have to think about, can you get checkmate before your opponent beats you and gets checkmate? If you're playing against somebody who's not on your level, then they're not thinking about that. They're thinking about defend, defend, defend. And then that's great for you. You're thinking about how many ways can I attack him? What pieces can I pick up? And then it's usually quite an easy game. Okay. So if I was black, my next move would be, I would get down my knight and take that pawn. Taking that pawn will cause them a problem because it can't be taken by that pawn because they're pinned. Okay. Next move could be checkmate here or checkmate there. Okay, because that square is then defended by the king. How can white defend that square if the knight comes to here? That knight moving there doesn't defend it. Queen moving up to here would defend it only for one move. The rook moving up to here will only defend it for one move. The rook moving up there and calling check will defend it just for one move because you get taken. So if you were to move your knight here, you then think about, what are my opponent's options? What would they do with all their pieces? And you can tell from what we're talking about here, they wouldn't have very many options to stop checkmate next move. Okay. Laurel, you were right when you said the reason for black moving into this position is to keep the option of which way they can actually castle on. The reason for having a gap in the middle of the board here, that's not unusual, it's very common. The reason is because this game has opened with a gambit. When you gambit, you often clear pawns from the middle. They're usually the first ones to go. And that's by the time you get to the middle of the game, you've got rook having clear pathways through. Now, black can't castle on the queen side because both these two squares, they'll be castling into check, and you can't castle across or into check. You can castle on that side. Okay, so that would be the next move if they were black to move. Now, if it was white to move, talk me through your thinking. Laurel, do you want to go first?
Well, you've just spoke about the dangers over on that side where they've castled. So the first thing I'd thought is, what could you do to defend that a bit better? But I'm not sure what. Potentially, I'm not sure. Would moving the horse be a good move?
Shinava, what do you think? Would moving the horse be a good move?
I don't think so, because then you're not as defended as you were previously. Anyone comes along.
If you move the horse to the white square in front of the pawn, then that would block the queen coming in, but then the queen wouldn't want to come in anyways. I'm not sure.
See, that's the thing.
Well, moving the horse to that square is a good move because you would block it, okay, for a while. So the knight will still take it, okay, but obviously you still have weak pawns over here. You can still call check here. Black can still castle, but that would be the best move. Some people would think they would call check to here, okay? And yeah, you can call check if you want. Black then can't castle because they'd have to move out of check. Well, they don't really need to castle anyway, do they?
Mm.
However, the best move, the strongest move in this situation would be moving the knight. Okay, so now we're going to go over to another scenario. How did you find that? Did you find it useful?
Yeah, well,
Definitely,
it's
yeah.
different, isn't it? It's using your brain for a game that you haven't watched completely develop, so you have to make up all of the things that you would have noticed gradually if you were playing it yourself. You have to just look and analyze, don't you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the reason why this is a good way to think is um, I used to play loads of people at one time. Okay, and when you're playing loads of people at one time, what you tend to do is you tend to look at a board like the one we got in front of us now. Can you see the board in front of us now? Okay, and then you have to quickly learn to read the board, and then you get shown another board because you're playing quite a few people and thinking, okay, where should my next move be? And then you have to make quick judgments. So the life skill I was mentioning to you before, this is where it comes from. Basically, what you do, number one, is you're learning how to multitask. Number two, you're learning about options. And number three, it's called critical thinking. Okay. So in front of us now, you've got white to move. And there's two moves to a white pin. So you can force a pin, or you can try to force checkmate.
Have you
This is
changed
white.
the board? Because
Yeah.
it's this original board that we had before that I can see.
Yeah, same.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay. Thank you. I got back on.
There we go.
Yeah. Is that come
Yeah.
up now?
Yeah.
Okay. So, if you can tell me what the board looks like to you.
What,
Um,
like, describe where?
Yeah. Where everything is. Therefore,
Um,
Laurel, do you want
there's
to go first? Start with
yeah,
white.
the whites. There's king and a rook on the back, and the queen's in front on E2, defending that sort of area in front there. He's got a horse, bishop, two horses and two bishops up in the center as well. So that's quite good. And yeah, I think white's in a good position.
So now, can you describe black?
it looks like they've copied each other quite a bit, really, because they've both got the queen and the king and the rook all in the same position, mirroring each other.
They're quite similar,
I
aren't they?
think, yeah, I think white's in a better position considering the fact it's got more minor pieces in the centre of the board. We've only got one knight there and our bishop's right in the corner. And we've still got a bishop on the back row and he can't move because the queen's there. So, yeah, I think white has the best position on this. So I agree with Laurel on that one.
Okay. So, what would your thinking be about your next move if you were both white?
White. Well, how could we attack? That's what I'm getting from how you should think when playing against a master or something. How can you attack? So could bring the knight forwards maybe.
Yeah, where to? Which knight? The one on the C square or the one on the H square?
The one on the C square could, I think, get into a better position, but I think you might want to center the knight on the right because it's not in its best position right now to be in.
So you would move that one?
I think
to
so,
there
yeah.
And attack the queen?
Yeah.
Okay. And Shinoa, what would you be thinking?
I agree with that completely because if you move the other knight, the knight in C square, then you'd be doing essentially the same thing. But as Laurel said, you can get that knight more into the center of the board, which would be a bonus as well as achieving the same outcome.
Okay. Now, what a master would do is they would be looking and they would be thinking, number one, how can we get closer to the king? Failing that, how can we attack the queen and put the queen under pressure? So if I was thinking about putting the queen under pressure, I would think about taking the knight with the bishop. Now, let's assume you are black and I was to take your knight with my bishop. What would you do? Would you take me back with the queen or the pawn? Because you're defended, you've covered the knight, and the knight is worth less than the bishop, isn't it? I'm doing a sacrifice, aren't I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what would your next move be?
I take it with the bishop just because then you're not moving your queen out too far.
You mean you take with the pawn, you mean? Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Like
the pawn, sorry.
Okay. Laurel, what would you do?
I think I'd do the same, take it with the pawn. But it looks like it's going downhill because now that whole channel's open on the right of the queen, whereas the pawn was defending it from there. But
Exactly.
I think,
Now,
yeah,
the way Master thinks would be, I mentioned to you before that they think ahead, okay? And they don't do any move for nothing. So if they're going to give you a more valuable piece, there's a reason behind it. So the reason behind it would be, let's assume you did option one. Because I was thinking about a few options that your opponent could do. Probably take it with a pawn. If they take it with a pawn, I'll then bring out my knight to here. And then you forked the queen and the rook. You can take either one of them because the knight's gone. The knight's defending that square. So then you got a fork. Now, if the queen was to take, you still move there because then you're still forking the queen and the rook. You notice that? Okay, that's one scenario, and that's called a fork. The other thing that you'll be thinking is how can you get round the back of the king? If you were to put your knight here, that square would be under attack. Now the king will just then move over one. So maybe move your bishop here first. And you're almost forcing the bishop to move out or to take. Because they can't move out because they're being checked. So they have to take. Then the queen comes in here, calls check. Then the knight moves here. Now when the knight moves there, the queen then takes this square, and then the king's trapped. And they can't get help because these pawns, which were defending the king before, now stop any more help from getting round the back of them. Does that help?
Yeah.
So that's how a master thinks. The master thinks about attacking in these different directions. Almost like if you're in a boxing match and you're punching, you attack that way, you attack that way. Always thinking about where can you get them from? Different directions. Can you come around the back of them? Can you go straight forward, or can you come in that way? And you notice the way I was talking, I wasn't only talking about my next move, was I?
Next couple moves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Different directions with a number of different moves ahead. In addition, I'm thinking about what move would my opponent do? And it's called entrapment. You're trying to entrap your opponent into making a move. If I give you a valuable piece, you'll take it. That's how most people think, don't they? That's a little bit more valuable, you'll take it. Unless you're a master, right? Or unless the person made a mistake.
Yeah.
Does that help?
Yeah, definitely.
Now, in this one here, that's whereby I just moved over the bishop just to show that attack. Okay. And then here, the two bishops got exchanged. And then the knight moved up. So then the king is in trouble. Okay. They're in a lot of trouble there. And this knight here is still getting ready to attack from this direction. Okay. So that's just a few more here. Now here, what they've done here is an alternative would be if at this stage, it's almost like threatening checkmate there, isn't it? Because you can call check there and then move across here to call checkmate. Yeah. So what they might do is try to move that out of the way. If they move that out of the way, great. Fair enough. But my plan B, which was attacking from the other direction, because that knight was defending that square, you can still fork them. So what you're always thinking about is a pin and a fork. In the back of the mind of a master is, where can I pin them and where can I fork them? You noticed in the last game, we looked at a pin, didn't we? That pawn was pinned.
Mm.
And here we're looking at a fork and possible pins, but also attacking around the back. And even if your opponent did a move that you didn't expect, like for example here, what they're doing is they're going to move the knight over here to defend that square. Okay, like here, the knight's moved across, but they're still going to be in trouble, aren't they? Because then you can go here. Now they would have to move the queen, because what you're thinking then is they have to sacrifice the queen or the rook, because they know that that move is going to come next. So the queen can't go here, can go here, but that's not going to help too much. Okay, and plus you've got a bishop attacking the square here. So the bishop, next move, you can see that's pinned now, isn't it? Because once the queen moves out of the way, because your opponent will be thinking, I need to safeguard my queen. The queen is the most valuable piece apart from the king on the board. So I'm thinking about, yep, you'll get your queen to move maybe to here. But then I've got a pin here. I'll call check, and I've got that under threat. You can't move here, you can't move there. So you have to move here. Okay? And then you'll take the pawn, and they're in a lot of trouble, aren't they?
Yeah.
Okay. Now here, what's happened here is the white bishop has called check and now is taking it, and the king is trapped in the corner. Now the knight is now going to go here and call check. Now the queen can only move in one square. Yeah. So what you're doing as a master is you're thinking these number of moves ahead. So let's just come back to that original board. So when I'm walking around and I'm looking at a chessboard, I'm thinking about, okay, in 2 or 3 moves on the right or the left, this could happen, plan A or plan B. Does that help?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, so we'll pause recording here for today and then we'll do another one.